Today we're going to be doing the fourth installment of the intake process. I know that there's some time in between these recordings. Had a lot going on with the New Year and Christmas and holidays, and Dreamforce came, so there was a lot of activity that took place. But I'm back. And today we're going to be doing the fourth installment. In the third installment, we went through the process flow for the intake process. And I'm going to show you how to build that out within Salesforce. So we had a start screen, or we had a start employer beginning screen for asking whether they're employer or a candidate, then a decision, and what that would do is it would bring them to one screen or another, at which point they'd fill out some information, and then we bring them to a thank you screen, and then also obviously send them an email confirming or acknowledging their the completion of the form. So here I am. I've logged into my developer org, and I'm going to bring us over to where I created this. And so I'll go into flows. Okay. And in flows, I already created it. It's called intake process. It took a little while. It took about 2 hours because I had a few learning curves that I had to get past. And I'll tell you about those as I go through this so that it doesn't trip anyone else up. But in the intake process here, what we have is we have a start, we have a beginning screen, we have a decision. If they select employer, it brings them to the employer screen. If they select candidate, then it goes to the candidate information. Then we have to get the record type of the account for employer. Then we have to create the account record, save the record to the database from the information they entered in the screen. Same is true for the candidate. So we get the account record type, that's called candidate. Then we create the candidate account record, at which point we bring them to a thank you screen. And then after that, then we'd send them an email. Okay, so let me bring you through each of these little screens and kind of show you what they look like. So here is a selection where you have some choices, right? And the choices are either employer or candidate. There are various attributes that you can set within here. This is the way I built it out. There are other ways to build this out. Let me bring you to the decision. So in the decision, very simply, there's a candidate or an employer. And if the candidate is selected, I can tell that by the are you an employer or candidate is equal to candidate from the previous screen. So you're able to grab information from the previous entries and utilize it in forward entries and entries that are going to be coming up. And then the default is employer. Let's see, let's go. So the employer, let's do the candidate. So the candidate, on the candidate screen, we have the basic input information, and so it's the name, the address, the phone number, the email. This way I can ensure that it's in line with what's in Salesforce. So they have these widgets that I can just put in here, and I built it using their widgets. So let's cancel this out. What I want to show you, and one of the things that kind of tripped me up is getting the record type for the account of type employer. So what you need to do is you have to create a query into the database or a search of the database to get a record type, and that record type needs to equal what I called employer, and then the object of that should be the account. So that was one of the parts that kind of tripped me up, and I had to do a little research to build that out. And then we're only getting the first record. I only need one of the IDs, and I'm storing it in an ID and called account record type ID. Okay, so let's go, and then we create the record. So let me show you that. As we create the record, what's happening is we're creating just one record based on the entry, and then I'm grabbing all the information from the candidate input screen. And so you can see this is all of the information. You're able to grab information based on on the widgets. It just said address, and it just said name, and it just said email, etc. And so from the address, I'm able to parse that address information and just pull out the country and then store that to the billing country within the candidate or within the account. Okay. And then when it's returned, I want to save it into the account ID. So I save it back into the account ID So I have the account ID. And then, of course, we'll show them the thank you screen. And the thank you screen is a simple blurb of information, at which point they can click finish or next, and then it will bring them to, it will send the email out, right? And at this point is when I would actually end it, but you'll see when I show you a preview of it, it actually just loops back through. So you can just keep testing. So at this point, this is what we have. It's exactly what I had outlined. And let me run through dry run. So here we go. I'm running it. I'm going to create a candidate and click next. And then let's see, William Wallace, 5, John Street in, I don't know, Dublin. No, let's not do something foreign. Let's just make it something simple like Phoenix, Arizona. Let me go for that postal code. Again, that's in the U.S. 554, and then I made some of these fields required. So when you tab past it, it does exactly this. It says, hey, you have to complete this field, and it won't let them move forward until they actually complete it. So now let's click next, and now here's the thank you screen, just like in our flow. And then at this point, what they need to do, the way I built it is they click next and it will send out the email, right? So now let me show you. So here's what I have right now. In the future, I would build this out to actually create a contact. So if the employer put in contact information, then I would want to store that contact information as a contact related to the employer, which is the reason that when I create the record, I bring it back into account or into a account ID, because of the fact that I want to be able to grab that ID and I'll populate that on the contact record. Same is true on the candidate, where I'm creating an account. And like I said, we aren't using person account. So I'm going to create an account and a contact, and I'm going to use that to create the contact after this. So once I get the account ID, I can create the contact and I can link it or join it, if you will, as a relationship to the account that has the candidate. And there's some security reasons why I'm separating them out like that, and as well as some visibility reasons. So let me, I told you about the learning curve on these two. Let me bring you to the action, which is sending the thank you email. So you can enter a body, you can do a subject, you can do all this information. You can input, like right here from the email that they had entered. I'm able to parse that and then get out the value of the email, so I can use that to send the email. So that's kind of cool. It's dynamic. Then you can also enter in like static strings. So I put in my static string for my email address, right? What I learned was Salesforce will not send from a Gmail or Yahoo account, right? So you have to have like a company name here, or I don't know, maybe you leave it blank and let the system default Salesforce send it. However, what I do know is as a Gmail account, it will not send. At this point, I don't want to be sending out like just a bunch of emails, and I don't want to turn off the deliverability because I have other tests going on in this org. So I just put in this email address. I know things won't send, and I'm good with that. So that was another learning curve that I had. And then what I want to show you is I want to show you the last learning curve I had. So Flow now works very well in Lightning, and it is able to be incorporated into the Lightning framework, right? So in the past, it was only available in Classic, and you could like show it in Lightning, but it did not look good. It left a lot to be desired. So Salesforce addressed that by making a Lightning version, if you will, right? And that way you're able to style it, you're able to make it look good, and present it to your clients, and it will actually fit into whatever kind of branding that you have on your site or wherever you have it, right? So let me show you where that is. So if you go into process, there's this process automation settings, okay? And in process automation settings, you can see right here, flows launched from a URL or from setup use the Lightning runtime experience instead of classic runtime experience. So this checkbox by default is not checked, or it wasn't checked at least in my org. I had to come in here and check it and then save in order for it to actually fire off into Lightning. Like you saw when it ran, you could see it in Lightning. So anyway, just wanted to let you know the few of the pitfalls that I ran into. The reason it took me 2 hours to build this thing is because of the fact that there were a few little learning curves I had to go through, and I want to make sure no one else has to go through those stumbling blocks. But you know, I really appreciate you taking the time. I hope everyone had a great New Year, had great holidays. The rest of the year is coming up, and it's going to be a great year. Look forward to more videos. Please like and subscribe down below. And yeah, have a great day. Talk to you soon.